by Amanda here in Italy. We're ready for our chat tonight. We're going to cover the elective visa. I know I've covered this before, but it's always updating. There's always something new to learn. And so tonight I cover with you the most important points you need to know, the new information, an update on the elective visa, which is the passive income visa for Italy, sometimes called the ERV, or the elective visa. And so that's what we're going to cover this evening. So I hope you're ready. I hope you have something to drink, cup of tea, glass of wine, whatever. Let's dive into this because we've got quite a bit to cover and I want to get right to it. Okay. Somebody asked, why do I wear the hat these days? And it's because usually I have the badge on, the Y badge, and that's the question we're going to ask tonight. Why do you want to apply for the elective visa for Italy? Why are you interested in living in Italy? I'm going to run this down for you. For those of you who are new here, I've been living in Italy for 22 years. I became a citizen here. I help people to relocate to the place of their dreams. It's very often Italy. So many people want to come to Italy. So many people are fascinated by Italy. They want to know about Italy. So that's what we cover here. But I also cover people who can't come to Italy or don't want to come to Italy and want to go to France or somewhere else in Europe. So I do a mixture, but I live in Italy and I've helped many people come to Italy. So let's dive straight into the subject of this visa, which is the elective visa. What's new? What's happening? What's the upgrade? What do you need to know? So you probably need a pen and paper, or at least a tablet to make notes. And let's get to it. So, Number one, I'm going to play you a video of a couple who were refused. Why am I showing you this? Because I want to show you the reality of people who put all their eggs in one bucket or one basket and are 100% convinced that they're going to get this visa because they followed the stuff online, and that's what you should do. The minimum annual income net, they followed all that stuff. They followed all the points that you see online, which is that you need to have a year's rental up front, which is extremely hard to get, but I'm gonna cover that. Now I'm gonna give you, if you stick around, I'm gonna give you some tips and tricks. There aren't many tricks, but I've learned some from helping many people as to why you get refused and what you need to do if you don't want to get refused, because a lot of people get refused for this visa. I don't want to make anybody afraid, but if your dreams are full steam ahead, and I noticed so many Americans in the last, let's say, 2 years have 100% been dedicated to coming to Italy. And since the change of government in the States, it's become frenetic. So stick with us. I'm going to tell you what you need to do. So let's go back to the refusal. So they'd stuck to what was said online, the minimum annual income for a couple. There were a couple. There's also for the single. So what has always been published, and is still published, by the way, is that if you were a single person, you needed 31,000 net annual income in passive income. And there's the kicker. What is passive income? We're going to cover that. If you were a couple, it was 38, or so it says online on the Italian embassy site. And of course, you would apply in your embassy, your Italian embassy, in the city in which you live. So if you live in Miami, you'd apply in Miami. If you lived near New York, you'd apply there. So the people who work, the bureaucrats, for sake of a better word, who work in that consulate and have a lot of power, Because once they take that application, it's pretty much a given that every piece of paper that you should have, could have, must have, they've asked you for. Okay. So pretty much they are given the power to say yay or nay and to work within parameters. I know this is very annoying for many people, but it's a reality. And you know what we do on my channel? I don't just talk about wild dreams. I don't run adverts on Google and YouTube like Smart Move Italy, just showing you adverts of people who are deliriously happy who came to Italy and everything was glorious and everything was fine. That happens sometimes, yes. I live here. But I'm here to tell you the truth. So I'm not running any advert here. And this is not a competition of the best place to live in Europe. I like to give you the truth and then you make up your mind. So the site has always said 31,000 of passive income for a single person and 38 for a couple. Let's stretch that to 40 for a couple because 38 is an odd number, okay? So that's what you needed in passive income. Let's get to the passive income because here's a crucial thing that many people go wrong on. What is passive income? Let me explain it in simple terms. If you were to go tomorrow morning, walk down to your local cafe or coffee shop or whatever you want to call it, and sit there all day browsing through the newspapers and not do a single thing, because everything you need is already done and you don't have to lift a finger on a daily basis to earn your bread. That is passive. That is somebody who is retired and has their income fixed and they know exactly what comes in every month. Okay. So there may be some dividends, of course. So let's cover that. What does passive mean? So in terms of Italy, when you're applying for an elective visa, which requires passive income, it's social security. The work you did for 30 years, 20 years, 25 years, the social security that comes every month and has been for some time. Don't try and apply on the first month because they've got nothing to look at. They need back records of your social security and that it comes into a bank account, and it's more or less the same figure. It might vary $2 or I don't know, to whatever, but it should be a similar number because it means this amount of money, they sit and they analyze this, is going to come in every month. I want to imagine that you were the person in Italy who owned this big block of apartments, and this person was writing to you to say, me, I want to come and live in your apartments. I want to live in Italy. I want to rent in Italy. What would you ask them? What would you ask them for? Remember, you've got to cover this rent because you've put your investment into these apartments and you want the best possible people. You want people who can pay, who know they can pay. You're not going to have some minor thing happen to them or some medical thing happen to them and they've got to go back to where they came from and leave you and your apartment in tatters. So what would you ask these people? And that's what the Italian government is going to ask them, plus 40, because they're going to be responsible for anybody who comes to their country. Okay. I'm sorry if this doesn't fit in with the dreams you had of Italy, but that's how it is. So what would you need to know? You'd want a guarantee from these people. You'd want to know that they have a fixed income that comes in every month, come high or high water. It shouldn't fluctuate. It shouldn't change. And somebody was just turned down the other day. There's a big video online about it because they believe that their YouTube income, which is quite new, they've only been monetized on YouTube for a few months, but nevertheless, they applied to the French government for a visa and they were turned down on the basis of this bit of money that comes in from YouTube. Great, but it should be the same amount. It shouldn't fluctuate, and that's not the case. That's not the case on YouTube. It does fluctuate according to, the revenue stream. So you need So let's do the update. That was always the given. 31,000 for a single person, 38,000 for a couple. You needed 1 year prepaid of medical insurance. This is so that you are covered in your first year. They give you a 1 year visa when you first come, and then you apply for another one if you want to renew this. And then you could go on to having 5 years if everything goes according to plan. But in the beginning, they're giving you a 1 year visa. Come look and see. Okay. So you need 1 year of medical insurance. You also need, this is all on the site, by the way. I'm not telling you anything that's in my head. It's all written on the Italian site, Italian government site for elective visa. If you put elective visa into Google, it'll pop up. So, and you needed 1 year's rent secured. Now, the 1 year rent also provided a problem. I just mentioned that some people don't meet the grade for the passive income. But the other thing that could trip you up is that you can't find decent accommodation that is going to give you a year's lease. First of all, you're competing with Italians who have a regular job, a fixed job, and the landlord, when they're looking at the possible people who could rent this apartment, they would rather have an Italian that they can check their record, they speak the same language. Yes, of course, an Italian's apparently going to take precedence over you. But maybe they charge you more rent because you're a foreigner. That is a given. And they're going to have to take a risk. So, of course, they're going to charge you more than they would charge a local. That's just a given. But maybe you don't even care about that. But perhaps it's not that you don't have the money to pay for the rent or you're worried about the rent for the year, but that you struggle to find it because less and less people now want to do Airbnb in Italy because the government cracked down 2 years ago and increasingly so this year when they took away all the lock block things. You used to have a lockbox that was attached to the outside of the apartment building and you would come in with a code, get the key, and so they didn't even have to welcome you, which goes against Italian law because by Italian law you're supposed to report any tourists staying in Italy immediately to the police. So these people could come and go, and according to the Italian government, it was a way to not know who was in the country and could easily host terrorism. That was the reason given. So needless to say, Airbnbs have become much more hard. You probably know your friends did that, they did that, everyone did that. That's fine, but these are the rules now, okay? This is reality now. February 2025. Okay, so what happened with this couple? I'm going to play the video and then I'm going to cover for you what has changed and what you need to do if you really want to get a successful decision from the Italian government on your ERV visa. So let me try and get this hooked up here. And I'm going to play it for you. Okay. This is a couple who was just refused for their
out last week that the Houston consulate has now raised their minimum passive income for a couple from $38,000 to $62,000 net. And so that puts it completely out of our reach for now. So now we are forced to come up with plan B, which is fine. We can do that. And so now we are going to, in addition to Italy, which still has our hearts and where we want to end up, we're going to start looking at other countries in the EU as well.
Okay, so as you can see from this video, they're very sad because they had all the eggs in that basket. As she said, we're extremely sad because we were banking on Italy. We were convinced that we're going to go to Italy. And now they're thinking, okay, they got refused because they don't meet the new requirements, which are 62,000 for a couple. But let's continue with this little video.
Yeah,
and then
we're going to be looking all throughout the Schengen area, and we're going to want some feedback from y'all as to what areas you might want us to look into. One of the places that we're going to probably be starting off with will be France, since it's neighboring right up to there, and probably go to another couple places after that. But for right now, this is about as good as we can do, and hopefully down the line something might change, because Italy still shows it as being 38,000 on the passive income, but the consulates can put their own amount on there, which they're actually doubling for the couple.
Yeah, so it was disappointing to say the least, but it's fine. We will figure something out, and if we have to move somewhere else over there in the EU, at least we're closer to Italy, and we'll just take it from there. So just wanted to explain, a couple of things that are going to be changing. We're going to have to change the name of our channel because we don't know if we're Italy bound at this point.
Okay, so this is what happens.
Yeah,
this is
so
what
we're gonna
happens.
change the name of
Not
the channel
only
to
had this couple were convinced they were coming to Italy, they were 100% sure that they could get the elective visa. I didn't personally handle them. I didn't personally see their application, obviously. But, yeah, okay. So that's one of the requirements. So it could have been that their embassy now requires 62,000 for a couple, which is a lot more, as you can see. And so we're going to cover that. So power is given to the actual consonant who takes on the form in the country, not only America. Tonight we're covering America, particularly because a lot of Americans are asking me to cover this, but it could be Australia. You could be coming from UK, which is now out of the European Union. So that's the requirement. So it is at the discretion of the person who takes in the form at the consulate. The Italian government makes this decision based on the paperwork sent to them online and the verifications and the suggestions of your local consulate. So what else do you have to make sure of? So I have just read a message from one of the people who wrote to me about a month ago, and she's based out of Miami, near Miami, and she says they have just told her this week, please pay attention because you could maybe make notes about this, that Miami have now asked her for 60,000 plus. So for a couple, it's 60,000 plus, okay, which is double, nearly, well, just less than double what they were asking before, which was 38,000 per couple. So it's now 60,000 per couple. The couple that we just watched the video where they were refused said 62,000. But call it 65 to be safe, okay? You need that. She also said that she consulted a lawyer in Italy, paid a lawyer, international lawyer, who claimed to be experts in this area. And she asked them, can some of my passive income be annuities from an IRA? So this has been asked of me before. What constitutes a passive income? What about annuities from an IRA? Does that constitute passive income? Because you're not working for it. So theoretically, it could be passive. And the answer that she has given me this week is no. Miami told her in the embassy, contrary to what her legal advice was, that annuities from an IRA don't qualify as passive according to the embassy, according to the consulate where she applied. So that's important to know. So I don't want this to panic people. I'm just telling you, this is what can happen. You can be given contrasting advice by legal people, but at the end of the day, it's the consulate that you're going to have to please. You're going to have to go to the consulate. They're going to have to take in your papers. And if the papers don't quite match what they hoped you would put in front of them, you're going to have to please them. You're going to have to get other papers. This is just the reality of life, unfortunately. A rental income from apartments that you might own in the States or I don't know, wherever, that regularly comes in, is that considered passive? Again, it's up to the discretion of the embassy. So if you're a person with a good net worth and you're above 65 and you don't have to rely on your annuities from your IRA, yeah, you could probably get through easily. Do you need to rely on that rental income? Probably best not to. I can't give an absolute answer because it does depend on the consulate, but I wouldn't depend on it. Let me put it that way. If it's an added extra, it might just push you over the line, but don't depend on it. Don't let it be, a big part of your passive income. Your passive income ideally should be Social Security. That's what should make up the majority of your retirement application on an elective visa. If you're a person that has more than 500,000 available funds to invest in this endeavor of coming to Italy, you may be better off applying for an investment visa or to buy into a tech company. Those are other visas and you can find them on the embassy site. I'm not going to cover them tonight, but you may be able to come in on another visa, another route. But for people who are relying on their Social Security income and maybe some other regular income that is passive, on a retirement visa, and that's why I keep stressing it's a retirement visa. People say, well, can't I retire at 50? Yeah, sure you can. There is no age limit to this. But at 50, you may not have the Social Security payments accrued to actually be a passive income person. So the elective visa is not for you. The elective visa is for people who want to retire in Italy on their Social Security and passive income investments. Okay? What YouTube? If you're a YouTuber. So anyway, this lovely couple that we just watched, this is a typical example about what I see recently. They get this idea in their mind. For some people, Trump has pushed them. Maybe some people were interested before Trump. I don't know. But suddenly everybody's panicking. Okay. They also maybe perceive that Italy's going to close the door, that Italy maybe doesn't want so many foreign pensioners in Italy. That's another thing that we'll cover in a few minutes. What do locals think? How many we're going to cover how many Americans are actually physically in Italy living at this moment. We'll cover that. But as far as this elective visa, please be very clear. It is not, if you want to come and you're under 50 or under 40 or whatever, and you want to come here and you can't make it on the digital nomad visa because you don't meet the requirements of that. This is not a visa for you. It isn't. So you can't make visas, squash into your requirements. This is completely designed for people who want to come and retire in Italy. It is pretty similar to the one in France that I deal with regularly. They have more or less exactly the same requirements. France has an advantage in that it doesn't tax Social Security. I've covered this in other videos, and I'll keep saying it. It's up to you to decide which one you prefer. Some people adore Italy. They're in love with Italy. They don't want to think about anything other than Italy. Please be aware that you will be taxed on your Social Security payments that come into Italy if you're living here and you're retired on an elective visa. I'm not going to go into taxability because it's personal. And please don't ask me how much tax you'll pay, because I can't answer you unless I have all your facts in front of you. And I'm not a commercialist. I'm not a tax specialist. And therefore, although I know a lot about Italian tax and have lived here for 22 years, you would need to ask somebody that question. But I can guarantee you, if you come to live in Italy, you will be taxed on your worldwide income. Okay? I think that's pretty clear. Right. Okay. So as I mentioned, I heard this week back from somebody who'd applied in Miami, and they were told 60,000 plus for a couple you need in regular payments coming in, passive income. Okay. So the other thing that cropped up this week is that, so there's that change in the amount. It is not written yet on the site, so you could go to the Italian consulate site online and still see 38 for a couple and say, well, I don't know what Amanda's saying. I don't know what these people are saying. Maybe it's just a rumor. Take it from me. I've always tried to tell people to go to 40, 45, even before this, I heard back this news. They have always had discretion at the embassy level in your country where you apply, okay? So now it's been told, one couple's been told 60, another's been told 62. I'm just saying, if you make 65, you might make it on 62. I don't know. Another thing that people don't do, and this is one of my tips and tricks, if you're watching this and it's useful, please go up and like it. I make this content for free for you guys. Please go up and like the video. And if you haven't subscribed yet, my name's Amanda. Please do, because I talk about Italy a lot, the good, the bad, the beautiful. And tomorrow I'll be doing a video out on the street, another live video for my Sunday live. This is a special edition about retirement visas. Okay. Great. Another thing that you should do in your application that can help a lot is to send a cover letter. Now, people often say to me, what is a cover letter? What should I say? Don't tell them that you've always been in love with Italy and when you were a child, you had a neighbor who was Italian and they once gave you a cannoli and then you fell in love with Italy and you've been in love. They hear this nonsense all day. Give them a real reason. Here's a real reason. I recently visited a city, let's say Palermo, let's call it Palermo, Catania, in Sicily, and I spent a holiday there. I loved it, and I'm really interested in this particular town. Don't say I'm just in love with Italy. No details. Are you in love with a particular town? Okay, so I would like to explore living in this town, okay, and becoming part of, integrating in Italian culture, learning the language. That's all you have to say in that cover letter. That you're interested in this particular town and that maybe you had some distant relations, but they're not strong enough for you to get an Italian citizenship or passport, but you'd really love to come and live in Italy and be part of the culture and adapt to the culture. That's what you say in the covering letter. It can be 500 words. Don't go on for 3 hours about being in love with, muscly Italian men that you saw on the beach. Don't write nonsense. That cover letter would be great, because imagine you got applications for your apartment that you were renting. Imagine that you got 300 applications a day, which is probably what one consulate gets in the States, okay, to come to Italy. And you had to wade through these 200, 300 applications. The ones that would stick out to you would be the ones that sent a very concise cover letter. This is my reason. This is why I want to go to Italy. Okay? It's not required. You don't have to. But I promise you that everyone I know that I've instructed, that I've helped, who sent a cover letter and been very clear, has always got a positive response. That's all I'm saying. Okay? So those are the two things. Please be sure that if you are intending to stay in an Airbnb, that you have secured the year with the owner. That means you've got to somehow contact that owner and say to them, oh, could I'm in a book now for 3 months, but could I extend for a year? And could you email me a letter for the year because I need to give it to the embassy, and you would need a contract for a year. This is something that people overlook. They think, oh, just to Airbnb. So I heard somebody on Facebook said, oh, you could just sign up for 6 months. Don't send them 6 months because they've asked you for a year guaranteed. You don't want to give them a reason to refuse you, like this dear couple who are now looking all over Europe and have heard that France is better because they don't tax Social Security. So now they're going to France and hoping that, in a couple of years, I'm just telling you what most of the people who come to me dream about. And I just want to put some legs to this. I want to put some roots on these dreams, okay, with reality. So the idea is, okay, maybe France will be better. Maybe they will give them the visa. They're going to go to France, to the French consulate in their country. They want to go to France. They're going to put the application in, okay. According to them, they're going to get it. Let's say they get it. Then they want to go to France and live there they think it's 5 years. 5 years is just to get permanent residence. You would have to live there for 10 years to ask for French citizenship, EU citizenship, obviously. And you would have to speak the French language at a very high level. It's not just A1, the basics. People just ignore this when they're in love, when they're in love with the country, they're in love with the idea. Maybe they've already sold their furniture. In the case of this couple, he looks like he retired from the police. They had this dream to go to Italy. Their dreams were crushed. They can't go on an elective visa. They could do what some people do, the Schengen shuffle, go for 3 months, go back. Some people still find that a better way to do it. I don't know. Maybe it's too expensive for them to do it that way. But anyway, now they've decided they're going to go to France and apply in France. And then when they get their French citizenship, which they think is going to be a reasonably simple thing, it isn't. All of the governments in Europe have clamped down on citizenship. All of them have now put a language requirement on the getting of naturalization or citizenship, okay, by residents. So Italy did that a couple of years ago, 3 years ago, I think. And now there's talk, and I say talk, that they will actually make a language requirement for these visas. So I've always said, if you're thinking of spending more than 6 months in Italy, or even if you're just coming for the 3 months Schengen shuffle because you're not sure yet if you want to apply for the elective, please start learning Italian. There's thousands, millions. I spoke about this in my last video. I'll put it up there. How many Italians there are with Italian rights just in America? It's millions. Yeah. So start practicing your Italian. Make it a language lesson. You can use an app. I don't personally recommend apps. I don't find them to be that effective. Find an Italian teacher and invest in your dream. Okay. Because you can almost guarantee that they're going to start asking. A lot of people have come in on this elective visa now. They're retiring in Italy. How do the locals feel about it? The locals feel quite aggrieved, to be honest, some of them. I'm not saying all of them, please. It's not that they're not happy that Americans are choosing their country to come and retire, and that Sicily is now having its, abandoned villages, some of them built up. But there's no services there. There's no jobs there. These people are retired. So the fact is they're not coming to build a new life there. They're just coming to relax, spend a holiday. And then maybe if they have money, they'll be back in the States for 6 months. They'll come back. So it's not quite like repopulating these abandoned villages. Okay, so how do locals feel about Americans coming? Well, I bet you don't know how many Americans there are right now resident permanently in Italy. Some of them have citizenship, obviously, because they married an Italian and got citizenship, or they themselves had rights through their families. But there's only 16, not 16 million, there's only 16,000 permanent Italian citizens at the last statistics that they did for Italy. So let's say that's changed a bit, and with all this Trumpery, maybe 2,000 more than normal would come in. It's still under 20. Yeah. So it's not a lot of people. So you could say, well, I mean, goodness, why would the Italians mind? It's just that Italians are so present with Americans. They hear the American voice. They think that everyone who speaks English is American. I get called American all the time. I'm not, obviously. But so let's say it's 16. Let's say it's under 20, because I didn't have the 2025 results. But when it was last measured, let's say 2 years ago, that's what it was. So it's a small drop in the ocean of 60 million Italian inhabitants. Italian citizens, 60 million. Let's say all of the foreigners, all of the non-Italians. How many do you think that is in Italy? I've just told you that Americans are less than 20,000. So let's say it's about between 16 and 20. It's a very small drop in the ocean. The Italian population when I first came here was 65. It's dropped to 60. But there are now close to 5 million foreigners living in Italy. Who are the biggest groups? I'm going to tell you. Romanians are always the biggest number. I did call this up, but then I had to use this for something else. So let me find these stats for you. But so you could say, well, are these people getting fed up? Do they believe, as has happened in Spain and also some places, Portugal has had problems with foreigners, where the locals say, we don't like the fact that you're coming here, you're driving up our rents because you don't care what you pay, you're just desperate to have a rental, you are driving up the property values so we can never buy a house or an apartment in the town where we grew up, our own town. Yeah. All valid questions, all valid points. And Spain has now blocked mass tourism in a big way for exactly this reason, because the locals were rioting that they could not afford, if they couldn't afford to rent, to buy, to live, not only rentals, but restaurant prices, food price, everything had gone up. So yeah, the Spanish government made huge strides to block it by blocking property acquisition and just basically putting the kibosh on tourists. This has made tourists feel less welcome in Spain. I don't think Spain's worried. Half of the young people of Italy are living in Spain, so it doesn't really matter when all is said and done. Yeah. So, how many immigrants moved to Italy in 2024? I bet you want to know that answer, because that was what I looked at originally. So, let's say right now there's 16,000 Americans permanently living in Italy. Not those who are coming and going, not those who have rights to Italian citizenship, so they come and spend 3 or 4 months. People who are registered resident. So in Italy, you have to be registered resident if you're living here, because there's no other way. You have to register as a resident if you want to live here. Okay? In 66.317 people. So that's immigration. That's not illegal immigration. We're not talking about illegal immigration. They don't come into this factor. So the problem is, when you talk about immigration, are you talking about residents? Are you talking about immigrants? We don't have these clinical figures. But needless to say, immigration, legal immigration to Italy has increased a lot. Certainly when I first came here 22 years ago, I was one of a handful of people that I knew had moved here. It has increased and increased and increased. And when people are here and happy and they get their house and their dream, they talk to their family back home and their friends, and then eventually, the message gets around and more people move. But right now, I'm going to give you the breakdown of foreigners in Italy. Which are the biggest groups? I bet you want to know this. You should if you're coming to live here. So the questions I addressed with this couple that I showed you the video of, I'll show you another little piece, is what have you asked yourself the questions? Remember, I always say the question why. Why do you want to go to Italy? Who are you going to be sharing your world with? Who is moving to Italy? How many foreigners are in Italy? Okay. So in 2024, Italy's foreign population, non-Italian, was 5.3 million individuals. Compared to the previous year, which is 2023, it increased by around 166,000 people. So that's about what it increased in a year, this last year. That's a big increase. That's 166,000 more people in 2024 in Italy than there were in 2022, I guess. Yeah. So in 1 year, in 2023, in 1 year, it's gone up 166,000. But the number of foreigners living in Italy at this particular moment is 5.3 million. How is this composed? Well, I'm going to tell you. Certainly, the Americans are nowhere near the top. As I just mentioned, Americans constitute, or they did it the last year when it was last measured, about 16,000 permanent residents. These are not people who are coming and going. These are permanent residents. And it could be edging towards 20. But it's a very small number. Who are the biggest number? The foreign population in Italy. I bet you want to know this. Romania is the biggest portion. 1,073,000 and some change. So 1,100,000 are Romanian. Albanian, 416,229. Excuse me as I read these figures. So that's Romania, the biggest group, at 1.1 million. Albania at close to 500,000, 416. Morocco is the third country, the biggest group of foreigners in Italy, which is 412,346. The next one is Chinese, 308,000. So that's the fourth largest group in Italy of foreigners living, resident, not visiting, not jumping, resident are Chinese, and that is 308,984. Ukraine is the fifth group. The fifth largest of foreigners living in Italy are Ukraine, which is 273,484. So that's number 5. Romania, Albania, Morocco, China, Ukraine. Bangladesh is the sixth group, largest group of foreigners living in Italy, 192,000 and some change. The next group is India, 170,880. The next group is Egypt, and Egyptians number 161,551 in Italy, resident. Pakistan, 159,332. And then the Philippines, 156,000. Okay, so I'll just give you a little roundup. As of 2024, Romanians were Italy's largest foreign population, with over 1 million Romanians living in Italy during the period considered. Living, not visiting, living. Albania and Morocco followed with 416 and 412,000 people resident. From a regional perspective, the northern regions had the largest foreign population. That is no surprise, as that's where the jobs mostly are. Lombardy, which is the biggest province up in the north, had some 1.1 million foreign residents, the largest in the country. Now, in the whole of Italy, there's 5.3 million foreigners resident. And Lombardy, the region of Lombardy, which is a region which comprises Milan and a couple of other cities, Como, for example, the northern cities, and then you have the middle, which is Bologna, and then Tuscany, etc. So that has 1.1 million foreign residents. Okay, so a lot of the these are not illegal immigrants that came on a boat and are not registered. No, these are living resident people. Okay. In Italy, you have to be registered to be resident. You can't randomly be resident because you do not form part of the system if you're not registered in your local community, which means you cannot get medical insurance. So you can't just randomly exist in Italy. Okay. It's like that in most European countries. We're speaking about Italy tonight. So there we are. That's the foreign population of Italy. And Americans are right near the bottom. There's 16,000. Nowhere near the 100,000, nowhere near the 200,000, nowhere near the 400,000 or the 500,000. So nowhere near the top. But why do they get so much attention? I'll tell you why. So here's this lovely couple. They have the dream. He retires, she retires. They put all their money in the pot. They shake it up. They count it out. And they say, okay, we're going to go to Italy. We've watched all the videos on YouTube about how easy it is to go to Italy, how lovely we could buy this gorgeous house. And so they make a channel. They make a YouTube channel because they've seen 1 or 2 videos on YouTube talking about Italy and the dream of renovating or buying or whatever. Go up and like the video if you're enjoying this. It helps me a lot. You can go like it right now. The button's right there. I appreciate it a lot. I make this content for you guys, and it's free. And so they have the dream. They start the YouTube channel. In this case, it was that they were going to Italy. Now they have to change it to Europe because They're not going to Italy anymore because they got refused. So the general thing is they make a YouTube channel. It's based in the States. And if you have a YouTube channel in the States, you paid a lot more than somebody who would be based in Europe, because in the States, the adverts attract a bigger revenue. But anyway, this is just an aside. I'm just telling you that just about every couple who's thinking of moving has started a YouTube channel. Okay, and great. I'm happy for them. But just if you started your YouTube channel because you want to come to Europe and you believe that the embassy is going to consider that a passive income, they are not. It's not passive. You're working. Okay, so, and we've seen, we chatted about this a few weeks ago with a woman who was refused for France because she believed that her YouTube income would be counted. It wasn't. Anyway, all the sad stories. So I've told you how many Americans are physically in Italy, permanently resident. There are a lot more, and I covered that in my last video. My last few videos about moving to Italy, I'm going to put there's already a playlist, but I'll hook it up down in the description box. When you watch this video back, look down in the description box, and I will link to the videos in which I've discussed how many people there are in the world. I covered this last time, so I'm not going to cover it again, who have rights to Italian citizenship through birthright. I'm going to, through their parents, grandparents, through the bloodline. I'm going to put that down in the description box so you can find it again if you haven't watched it, and that will answer the question. But it's in the millions of people who have rights to come and be in Italy anytime they like because they have an Italian passport. Okay, and they don't need, that's another question that comes up all the time. If you have an Italian passport, you have full rights, you have full citizenship, you can come here anytime you like. If you want to be resident here, you simply have to go to your local comune and register as a resident, pay your lights and water, whatever, and get on the health system. But you don't need a visa. So the question always comes up. I have rights. By rights, I don't mean rights in your head. I don't mean rights because you have your grandfather's birth certificate. I mean, you have Italian citizenship and you have an Italian passport that you're traveling on, because recently, although so many people rush to take advantage of the jus sanguinis. In other words, you can get Italian citizenship through your blood, through your grandparents, your parents who left Italy, born in Italy, left Italy, went to America, and you were born in America. It really depends if they gave up their Italian citizenship. So we won't cover that, but I've covered that as well, and I'll put that video down in the box. So if that's you, then you need to look carefully at the facts, because you may not be eligible. Also, Italy has revised its laws on the age you would be when your parents surrendered their Italian citizenship, and because they're naturalized as Americans. So this all needs to be looked at very carefully. I'm not going to make any promises, but if you want to write to me and you want to give me the nuts and bolts of your situation, I can tell you whether it's worth having a consult with me and whether we can try and find out if you are in fact eligible for dual citizenship. But this is not a dual citizenship video. I've done a dual citizenship video. I will put it up there. I will also put the playlist of the important videos that you need to watch. If you're not subscribed, you should be, because then you'd be getting alerts for these videos. Please go up and like the video. When you watch this back, please like the video. People forget to like it. It's the thing you can do that helps my channel the most, because then it gets suggested to other people who need it. And if you want to leave a comment or you want to put your city down in the chat box, if you're joining us, it's always great. Put your city in the chat box, then I can see who's joining us. Okay, so we've covered the tips and tricks. I'll refresh again. If you're applying for the Elective visa, make sure you meet the minimum. Yes, it has been increased from what's written on the site. Yes, the people that take in your application have a lot of discretion. They can say yay or nay before it gets even to the Italian decision maker. So you need between 60 and 65, net income between a couple. Single person, still 31. Okay, so you need that. You need your letter contract of 1 year's rental in Italy, not just an Airbnb booking. If you own a house, all the better, because you already have your accommodation. But remember, buying a house in Italy doesn't give you any residence rights. So that's another question that comes up every time, and I cover it every time. You can't buy a house and find your way into Italy that way as you used to be able to do in Portugal. That's also stopped now. So yes, so you need the place to live, you need 1 year's insurance, you need a cover letter, as I covered. Write yourself a nice cover letter, not a romantic story about, you hate pizza and pasta and mandolin and your nonna gave you a cannoli once. No, none of that. The town that you're interested, that you want to assimilate and integrate into Italian culture. You love the Italian culture. You want to be resident, name a town. It's not a concept. Italy's not a concept. Not just I want to come and live in Italy because I've been in love with Italy since I was 3. This is not a letter of intention. A letter of intention, a cover letter. I want to come and live in the town of Catania in Sicily. I visited there last year and it has what I want. I'm prepared to learn the Italian language. I want to assimilate and bring my family, and we want to retire there. It has 500 words. Doesn't need to be a book, okay, because they won't read it. But a cover letter tells them that you've thought about this. It's not a random thing you did on a Sunday afternoon because your friend was doing it. So I hope I've covered all the pitfalls that can actually rise up and make you extremely happy. So this couple that applied, unfortunately, found out, like a few others, that it's not a given, that you don't have to get the visa.
So I don't know that there will be any problem with YouTube and y'all finding us, but just so you know, that's going to be the new name. And so I'll go ahead and do that today. I just wanted to, let you guys know that it was changing. And so what I thought we would do today is I want to go over the pros and cons of Italy. And then, since we're starting to have to go look elsewhere, I also want to do the pros and cons of France, because that's where we're going to.
Okay, so before we get to the pros and cons, which I've done a video of, I want you to know these people have never lived in Italy. These people have never lived in Italy, but they're doing a pros and cons of Italy video. Please note, okay?
And so... And I'm just going to go down the list. And again, I'm going to put this up so that you guys can
These
see
people
it.
have only been to Italy on holiday.
One of the major pros for Italy is its history and its culture, which speaks for itself. I mean, it's Italy.
They've lived it for thousands and thousands of years, and they still live it as of today. Like, other than the U.S., what they do.
Yeah, and they just, they've got the slower pace of life. They have all the festivals and traditions, and the U.S. has some of that as well. But,
Okay, so now I'm going to go through this list with you. You've seen the list. I'm going to go through it with you. I'm going to tell you that these are the most random reasons. But, hey, this is what people do, and I'm here for it. I want to discuss it with you. Let me know in the comments what you think. Either now in the chat box, you're welcome, you put your city, or leave me a comment. So the pros that this couple who've never lived in Italy, they've visited once or twice. So the number one pro is Italy's history, dynamic and strong, whatever that means. Yes, Italy has an amazing history, dynamic and strong. You could say that for just about every country on the face of the earth. But anyway, this is what it means for them. That's what I'm trying to say. Culture, traditions, festivals, slower pace of life. And these are all different things, but they've been put on one thing. So culture. Does America not have a culture? Sure it does. Does Mexico have a culture? Sure it does. Does South Africa have a culture? Does Australia have a culture? Okay. By culture, maybe she means, I don't know, going to the ballet, art galleries, that kind of culture. Traditions. America doesn't have traditions. America has more traditions than I can imagine. I'm just giving you my point of view as a resident in Italy for 22 years. Festivals, okay, great. Slower pace of life. You could have a slower pace of life in America. You could be a farmer. You could be retired and living in a beautiful countryside location, having a very retired. Not everybody in America is having a fast-paced life. They may not be living suburbanly. But this is what I'm trying to say. These generalized ideas get promoted on the internet all the time. And I'm saying to you, if it's simply a slower pace of life, don't put yourself under threat. Don't take all your eggs into one basket and set your heart on Italy just because of a slower pace of life. You could have a slower pace of life in your own country and not have to go through all the stress and the unknowns, okay? Just a suggestion. I came to Italy. I live here, so I know, okay? There are many festivals in America. It's not only Italy. They may be fascinating because they're different, but yeah, this is what most people have, this vague idea, okay? So she wanted to go through the pros and cons, which is perhaps what they should have done before they made the application, but it's okay. Food, need we say more? What do you say? What are you saying, that all of America eats badly? I'm picking on America because they're American, okay? They're a middle class couple, according to their own estimation. Food, need we say more? So Italy is famous for its food and blah, blah, blah. Yes, we have fresh food. Yes, I cook Italian. Yes, I love it. So I'll give her that one. We don't need to argue about that. The food is better in Italy than America. Certainly the quality is. Whether the price is or whether you can afford it, that's a whole different discussion. And this is what people leave out of the equation. Yes, the food may be 5,000 times better, the availability of fresh produce and stuff. Can you afford it on your pension is the question. The real question, not this kind of question. Okay. Maybe they'll get to that later. Low cost of living. Now, this is just a thumbsuck. Italy is a country. It's not a town. It's not a region. It's a country. It's got thousands of cities and towns and regions, each one completely different to the other. One, you would pay 3 times the rent you would in another. So this low cost of living. Let's say I was coming to America. I was applying for a visa to come to America, which people do. I know a few Italians who've applied for a visa for America. Do you know the headache you have to go through? If you moan about the Italian bureaucracy, try applying for a visa to go and work and live in America. So if you were making a list for somebody to go to America, 50 states, okay? Would you say that America has a low cost of living? Drop down in the comments, let me know, or in the box. Does America, because remember we're talking about Italy, a country, does America have a low cost of living? Well, my question, my answer to this question would be, well, it depends where you want to live. It depends which region you're in. It depends which state you're in. It depends how much money you have. So, I mean, yeah, no. You cannot analyze a country as a low cost of living. Low cost of housing, according to maybe her situation, yes. If you're living in New York and you pay $8,000 for your tiny apartment, actually you'd be lucky to pay $8,000, more like $18,000 a month for your apartment in New York because you work there and you want to be there, but now you want to go to Italy. Of course it's going to be low because you can't compare apples with pears. And you can't compare apples with oranges. So low cost of housing, where are you going in Italy? If you're going to a tiny town in Tuscany or even a larger town in Tuscany, you can't compare that to the city in the States. which has so many more work opportunities and other opportunities. So this is why these kind of lists are so non-specific. They don't make any sense. Low cost of housing. Believe me, Italy doesn't have a low cost of housing. There are places in Italy in the south, many of which don't have a big hospital near them, don't have the services that you want when you retire. So what are you comparing? When you make a statement that Italy has a low cost of housing, this is complete nonsense. Because in most of the cities in which you can work, in which you can have a large teaching hospital, and where you have a high standard of living and all the benefits that I enjoy, I know I live in the north and have done for 22 years. It's not cheap. It's not even remotely cheap. So is it cheap compared to New York? Possibly. Is it cheap compared to other countries, the Philippines, Mexico, other places people could live? No, it's not cheap at all. In fact, it's quite the contrary. So that is nonsense for starters. But again, we're just getting a general big brushworks. No specifics. Excellent healthcare system. Again, it's non-specific. Excellent healthcare system. What does that mean? You may be getting better healthcare in the States. You may be able to afford healthcare, health insurance. You may be living in a town in which you're very blessed with your specialist, your service, and you're plugged into that. You have excellent healthcare. The whole country doesn't have excellent healthcare, but believe me, the whole country of Italy doesn't also have excellent healthcare. Another thing that people don't think about, because they talk in generalities, and the people trying to sell you a house, and the people in the agency in Florence who are trying to get you to come to Italy and pay them to move you, they're not going to tell you this stuff. They just say, yeah, Italy has an excellent healthcare system. There are people in Italy who don't have access to healthcare because they live in a town in which the six towns bordering plug into one hospital, and that hospital isn't working. So they've got to drive 2 hours to another hospital, by which time they may be no longer. So, I mean, excellent healthcare for some people, but lots of people in the States have excellent healthcare, better lists of specialists, more equipped hospitals. Can you afford it is the point. Okay, so I think the answer should be that you are covered for, it has a social healthcare system. So if provided that you are resident and you've paid all your dues, paid your taxes in Italy, yes, you can plug into the system, but then we still pay for it. We pay via our tax, which is enormous. Tax is another thing that never gets mentioned here, and it's not free by any means. But anyway, let's give her that one. Amazing architecture. Well, this is true, and Italy has more sites of world UNESCO sites than anywhere else in the world. Amazing architecture. I'll give her that one. There are lots of countries that has amazing architecture. France, for example. But anyway, we'll give her that one. The weather. All climates are available. I'm willing to tell you that if you take every country in the world, big, large, small, you're going to get all climates available. You're going to get coastal. You're going to get all the climates in the States are not the same, surely, where you're coming from. So all climates are available. I wouldn't say this is true, but anyway, the sun shines a lot in Italy. That would be more accurate, yes. Friendly locals. This is random. I mean, where do you get this from? Who told you this? Your experience of one holiday? Yes, there are lovely friendly locals, but there's friendly locals in every country. There's friendly locals in your own town, which you're leaving. Some locals might not be so happy to have you around because they feel invaded by foreigners. I mean, but I think it's important what the pros were for this particular couple, okay? And then at the end, they've slipped something in the 7% tax regions for foreign income. Yes, there are these regions. They're in small, undeveloped towns that you might not want to be in, and you might not want to be in a 7% town, and you're going to be paying half your income like the rest of us to keep the excellent healthcare system. So that was just a little précis, okay, of the pros that people base their future on. Okay, so this couple are now going to France. So they've segued this YouTube channel that they started of their dream to go to Italy. They've been refused for their visa, and now they want to look at France. And so now it's this whole channel has segued to not Italy, their dream, but France for a few years, and then maybe we'll look at Italy. This is extremely difficult because you're going to go and set up in a new country, France. You're not going to give yourself time enough to learn the language. You can't get citizenship until you've been there 10 years because, of course, if you have EU citizenship, you can live anywhere in Europe, in all the Schengen countries. And then you want to come back to Italy. I didn't understand. I understand that you want to squash your dream into a different shape to fit the hole you have in your life. You have this dream, and the only thing that'll fit in there is Italy. And so France is the border with Italy. France has a very similar retirement visa to Italy. The requirements are pretty much similar. There are certain things that I think are pros for France. I've done a video about this. Again, I'll put the French video in the description box if you want to make the comparison. But one of them is that they don't tax Social Security payments. Okay, so I've covered this, right? But I wanted to tell you two things tonight. If you're American, you're thinking of coming, you're not sure, you're panicking now with these new changes. Will you have enough money if you're a single person, 31, let's call it 32 for the sake of an argument, per year, net, not before tax, net, to come with? And the other requirements, can you get the year's rental and the year's insurance? Do the cover letter, do what I recommended, and the chances are you'll get it. So I don't want to discourage anybody. And if somebody tells you, I'm sure Italy is so sick of all these Americans going to Italy, invading Italy and changing the culture, no. There's only 60,000 Americans permanently resident in Italy. Not counting the people who have citizenship all over the world, Italian citizenship, who come and go when they please. Residents. Okay? Okay, lovely. So, I hope I've covered the questions you wanted covered tonight. I do hope you'll go up and like the video. Helps me a lot. You can hit the like button right now. You know you want to. And I'll see you on the next one. This one was particularly to cover this question that comes up all the time and the new updates on what you need to retire in Italy for the residence visa, the ERV visa. Tomorrow I'm going to do another live, my usual Sunday slot in the evening, let's say after lunch. I'm going to take you around my town a bit so you can see some Italian sights, some street scenes, the beautiful backdrop of my life, my backyard with Lago Maggiore, the beautiful mountains. I don't know what the weather's going to be doing tomorrow. We've had 4 days of beautiful weather, but you know, if it's decent tomorrow and I can film, I'll film you some of the shops, some of the streets as I have in the past. What I wanted to tell you tonight is that I have another channel where I will upload some travel stuff, some stuff about Italy and France or whatever, and it doesn't fall into this category of relocation. So, you know, my daily life, food, eating out in restaurants, and it's called A Life Less Ordinary Over 50. So I'm going to put the link to it in the description box. A Life Less Ordinary Over 50. You can go and look for it and subscribe. I'd love to see you on that channel. Why don't you, if you follow me here? And I'll be covering more of the social life of Italy, okay? And some more travel-y stuff. So Maybe I'll just write it down here. Yeah. So it all has to be, no gaps. You can't have any gaps. It all has to be written in one stripe. There we are. A life less ordinary over 50. So if you're watching, you can write that down. Look for my channel, A Life Less Ordinary Over 50. I've led a very unordinary life, an exceptional life, an amazing life over 5 countries, 3 continents. My life's been fascinating. And even now, I love my life in Italy. I love the life that I've made, that I can now enjoy a little bit and slow down a bit. So A Life Less Ordinary will cover all the stuff. If you're over 50 and you want to know what life's about, or maybe get some tips and tricks, and maybe want to travel a bit in Europe, and how do you travel on a limited income? The rich don't need advice from anybody. So yeah, I'll be covering some of that, how to travel, how to live on a budget, how to have a nice life, all that stuff. So if you're somebody who's over 50, you need to follow my other channel, A Life Less Ordinary Over 50. Amanda here. See you on the next one. Bye. Don't forget to like the video. And remember, I'll put everything down in the description box, all the links, all the playlist, and this channel, my other channel that you can follow. See you on the next one. Bye. See you tomorrow when I'm around my town in Italy. Bye. See you soon. Bye.